So Tyler Daly, it's only fitting that on the 24th episode, the Jack Bauer episode, I have one of the most devout Dynasty Daddies, a new real life daddy as of November 20th, I believe. Tyler Daly, glad to have you.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Yeah, recent, I guess, verified addition to the Father Dynasty community. Give me my blue check mark.
No question. Yeah, I can at least. We'll do a check mark. We have to figure out some sort of symbol we can use, and we can just kind of plop it in there. I don't know if it's going to be, maybe we do like the poop emoji.
I'll contact Flea Flicker, see what we can work out.
Oh, no question.
Not a sponsor.
So, no, yeah, disclaimer, not a sponsor. Until this thing pops off, then it will be a sponsor, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the news? How are the Dalys doing? The Daly trio?
Yeah, everything's good. Don't forget, we got 4. You know, we got the dog too. So
I forget. It is family. It is family.
Everything's good. We were fortunate. My mother-in-law stayed until, let's see, she was with us almost 2 weeks.
Nice.
We had my father-in-law and my brother-in-law for Thanksgiving as well, and then she stayed a little bit extra and flew home. So really, today's Tuesday. So as of last Wednesday was really our first evening fully on our own,
Gotcha.
After the hospital, after family leaves and everything. So we're about a week into this thing, just fully independent, if you will. And
yeah,
like you and I were texting earlier today, trying to figure out a time to meet, starting to figure out a routine, trying to just get some semblance of normalcy back here. Because as you know, it's at the first few days, you're just, shit's just flying at both literally and figuratively at 100 miles an hour, and you're just trying to hold it together by the seams.
Oh, no question. I was going to say, I know as you text him when everything was happening, like, all right, today we're having a kid. And just curious to know, I know you read the incredible book, of course, but what was just the experience like of that whole day going there? Was it kind of just like at the end of the day, it was just like, this felt like 6 minutes. It was a blur. It's so incredible this is happening. My life is different, all that.
Yeah. So let's see. She was almost 2 weeks to the date early. So really when when Megan started to go into labor, started to have some contractions and everything, this has now become a joke, is that we went out for Mexican food that night, and when she woke me up in the middle of the night and said she was having contractions, I told her no, she was having gas pains and go back to bed. So
that's a fair reaction. Yeah,
that one's going to go probably stick with me for a while. That I tried to push that narrative, but then it became abundantly clear that wasn't the case. So 3:30 a.m., go to the hospital, and then, like you were talking about, whether it's a blur or in some ways it's kind of a mixture of both, but which I know is probably a little bit of a cop-out. But I would say for me personally, as opposed to Megan, what she has told me in our discussions after the fact, I felt like the whole experience took forever. And I don't necessarily mean just labor, but like our time at the hospital and everything. By the time I thought we were never going to leave that place. It just felt like, with the amount of stuff that we brought to, because, people telling us what we should bring, what we shouldn't bring. And I think we just ironically, or not ironically, but funnily enough, we were going to use that weekend to pack our bags and everything. So we had 0 hospital bags packed. It was like that weekend was our final free weekend, so to speak. And then Megan goes into labor unexpectedly. So we're throwing our bags together at 3 a.m, and we're just packed everything. So sorry, I probably got way off kilter there, but
that was fantastic. I'm imagining it being the movie thing where it's like, all right, well, so this is 2 weeks before. So this is, if it's considered the final weekend of all right, this is the final weekend, we can realistically just kind of chill. And apparently that relaxed nature was like, all right, well then I'm going to show up starting at 3:30 in the morning on this day.
Yeah. And we, fortunately, we actually, we had been talking about going on a final date night, not to get too sentimental or anything, but one more date night where we don't have to worry about kids. And I know down the road, you get a babysitter and all that stuff, but as you know, it's always different after that point. So we had been trying to fit that in, and we have this particular Italian restaurant in Charlotte that we love. So it's kind of dragged my feet a little bit on the reservation front. So was about a week out looking for reservations for Emma's now birth date, and couldn't get in. And it was like, oh, I'm sorry, I know it'll be like a little bit less romantic, but let's just go on Thursday night, because we can actually get in at a decent time rather than either eating at 4:30 in the afternoon like old people, or 9:15 in the evening. So we snuck that date night in literally the night before. It was kind of nice. Everything fell into place, minus the having the bags packed.
Obviously, of course. I was going to say, I didn't know if, was it like having like, all right, we know this is the outfit that she's going to wear. It's her first outfit because it's going to be the picture moment and all that kind of stuff. I know I saw in the pictures you guys had some cool stuff there for some signage and all that. Yeah, the sign and yeah, it's funny. That was actually like Megan's cousin was over earlier, and they were talking about things you do and don't actually need at the hospital. And she did have the outfit packed for Emma, but had all this stuff like, I think she had like a nice robe or something that she was like planning on taking some, and a lot of that stuff just doesn't even get used because like you're just trying to hold it together. It's just, you think you're going to, Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, people take all these pictures, and it just doesn't work out like that for everybody. You just, I think once you get to that point, a lot of times you just don't care. Yeah. It's taking that moment of like, all right, we can kind of rest now, but now it's not, let's rest. And also, let's pump this media game up right now. It's more of like, let's get any bit of sleep we possibly can, because it may not happen again. But no, and I'm sure that's awesome too, to be able to have the fam there for the 2 weeks that kind of like leads it into like, as she's recovering, as you're recovering, just kind of like resting, tackling everything.
Yeah, I got spoiled. I'll admit it, during that, when Karen was here, God bless her, because I think because she kept saying, I would try to help her with this, try to help her with that. And she said, no, you guys need to take advantage of my services while I'm here. So I got to sleep through the night.
Nice.
I would say most nights that she was here, because she was getting up and helping Megan feed, or if we were doing like a bottle feed or something, she was getting up and doing it herself. So that was truly amazing. I wrote her a very spirited thank you letter, because it was just like, you can't put into words when people come and help you out in those kind of situations. But yeah, that was incredible.
Good old Care Bear. Shout out to Care Bear.
Yeah.
K-Dog,
but recently rebranded KK is the grandma name. So.
Okay. I'm imagining like Wiz saying KK.
Yeah.
Kind of something like that. So yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's exactly the same.
How was so I guess, how was the new schedule, or is that still kind of getting sorted out in terms of certain things are the same, but everything else is kind of just you fit it in where you can?
Yeah. The one thing I've noticed, like in particular, is, you have all these shows, like your routines that you watch, and it's like, haven't gotten to watch like any of that stuff, because that's the first thing that goes out, because everything's just driven by mostly feeding time. And I don't know what your doctors told you guys when you came home, but at least the latest and greatest medicinal advice is you're supposed to get your baby up every 3 hours to feed, to help them gain their weight back, maintain blood sugar and all that stuff. So you're living your life 3 hours at a time right now. So that's pretty much where we're at. Like, we literally, when we feed, we're like, okay, so what do we need to fit in this next 3 hours before we have to feed again? And so, Megan's breastfeeding and pumping. So I typically try to chip in with a feed or two during the night. And then we're just trying to work our normal routine around that. So like when we were picking out a time, it's like, okay, we got the feed at 8 or 8:30 or whatever it was. And so now we're going to stretch to 11:30 or 12, and we'll fit in the interview, and then we'll get ready for bed and try to bring that somewhat back to normal. 'Cause the dog has been really stressed out, like, like not
3 hours. What is this?
Yeah. So just trying to return to a modified version of normalcy.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. It's interesting where it's like, all right, there's the settling in after you get back from home from the hospital. It's figuring out whatever the schedule is going to be. And then I know it's trying to just incorporate like, all right, there's every other bit of life, like every other aspect that you have to just kind of cram back into it. Like, all right, these two are somehow going to merge. I don't really know how. There might be a couple weeks where it just doesn't really make any sense, but I know like it's like figuring out sleep, figuring out like, I know like with work and that sort of thing. So, and I think, are you still working at home?
A decent amount, yeah, to some degree. Yeah. Like tomorrow, I know I got a couple meetings I got to leave the house for, but then I've been trying to schedule stuff in pockets so that I can go out, do my thing, come back for a bit and help out. So that way it's because we're eventually, going to have to phase into a scenario where I'm predominantly gone most of the day again. So rather than getting there by shock treatment, we're trying to ease our way in. It kind of helps with it being towards the end of the year too, with generally my business slows down a little bit around that time. So makes, and there's a lot of like product training stuff that goes on at year end. So there's some Microsoft team meetings and Zoom calls I got to be on around here. So that puts me back at the house a little bit.
Gotcha. And they're very important. I just want to clarify to your employer, very important. Can't miss them. Got to focus.
Very, very. I was locked in this morning for the training for the full hour,
That's right.
Phones off.
Exactly. So, and I know, I guess in the League of Extraordinary Degenerates, I now know that we had two November babies. I'm not trying to think exactly when O'Loughlin's second kid was born, but I know that we do have two recent babies in the league. Yeah,
I wish. I'm glad you said that because I kind of forgot. It's talk about the certain things being a blur. I remember sometime after the day after Emma was born, I was texting Jake and he said he asked for a picture of Emma, and so I sent him that, and he reciprocated with a baby picture. And I was a little confused. I know that his girlfriend Katie is not pregnant, so I'm like, okay, well, whose baby is this? And then the text came as O'Loughlin. So yeah, he was somewhere. I think maybe even same weekend as Emma. I'd have to go back and look at her text, but he and I exchanged pleasantries and little dad to dad fist bumps and good old shit talking about Jake too. So
it's gonna happen almost every time. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure I think a couple months back I was trying to get him on the pod, and it was kind of just like, I don't really know when that's going to happen, but maybe we can kind of plan this out like a multi-week situation of like down the road, maybe get me on. I don't know. And then, of course, I was talking to him about a trade, I think, and he was like, he didn't respond immediately, which was fine. And he was like, hey, sorry about being a little late on it, and was talking about having a kid. I was like, yeah, I think that's cool. I think you don't need to respond. I promise it's cool. I don't care. Which we ended up getting a trade done recently anyway, so that works out.
Renaissance man, he can do it all.
No question. So I'm going to seamlessly go into a keep trade cut here, and this is the Daddy Daly edition.
All
and
right.
It's not only dad-related things, as I know the last time, or I guess maybe 2 times ago, it was dad-related. I was going to throw you a curveball, because I think you maybe thought I was only going to give you dad ones, and you could have like a different perspective on what they would be. But maybe on the next time you're on, it would be those dad ones in like a couple weeks, couple months in, just to see what your thoughts are on it.
Look at you go. You're always keeping me on my toes.
No question. So the first, I guess, sub-question is actually related to the Hokies. So I know that no matter how busy you are, you can't stop following Hokie football or maybe Hokie basketball. It's a little bit better, although we kind of, after those first a couple, it's like 4 or 5 cupcake wins versus, sorry, Radford's one of them, but a couple just nonsense games. Maine, I think, is what we started the season with.
Yeah.
So here's a keep trade cut with 3 Hokie-related things. So we've got the Fuente firing, the Pry hiring, and I guess those are technically 2 different things in terms of like how you thought about those, and Mendenhall stepping down, which is the funniest thing to me in the world.
Okay. Yeah, it's man, that's pretty tough. I guess, I mean, from group messages and everything, how I felt about how I like to call him JJ Fuente. So keep his firing. My wife can attest to That was a very special day in this household. Believe it or not, of all people, my dad broke the news to me. I guess he was sipping his morning coffee down there in Sanibel, Florida, and saw the tweet, because by the time he texted me and said that it was done, I went to the Andy Bitter, his Twitter feed, the beat writer for Virginia Tech, and it was like 3 minutes later. So Bill was on top of it. I had just gotten back from the gym, and to keep it somewhat safe for the children to listen to this podcast, there was
never
a lot of nude dancing in the shower when I found that out. It was a very, very happy day. So definitely keeping that one. Nice. And then I will trade the Brent Pry hire and cut Bronco Mendenhall just because he's. I think the most hysterical thing though about him getting. Well, I shouldn't say getting fired. He resigned allegedly and is retiring. But that here we are in this just totally mediocre to horrible period of Virginia Tech football. Probably the worst, at least 3 or 4 stretch that I've seen, 3 or 4 year stretch I've seen in my 25 years of rooting for Virginia Tech. And Bronco Mendenhall still went 1-4. Actually, technically 1-5. He went 1-4 against Fuente and 0-1 against interim head coach J.C. Price. Shout out J.C. Price staying on Brent Pry's staff as the associate head coach. But I'm excited for Brent Pry. It's hard not to be excited for just something new. I don't know, how well he's going to do. It's his first head coaching gig, but he was a graduate assistant under Bud Foster. So if he even just siphoned off a little bit of wisdom from him, and then he's been with James Franklin from Penn State for I think the last 11 years or so, and obviously he's had a lot of success. So I think he's ready, and Virginia Tech's ready to have something new going on. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh yeah, Fuente, that was fantastic to see him go. For Mendenhall, it was almost funnier because I was trying to imagine, all right, the futility that you've had since you've been there. I don't care what small victories they've had and that UVA is blown up to make it seem like they're bigger than they were. A futile number of years for Bronco Mendenhall. And he ended up, if the words were stepping down, it would be hilarious to me if they didn't actually fire him and he willingly just said, you guys are keeping me around and paying me, but I'm sick of just losing all the time. I'm just going to quit myself. I would like to think that that's what happened, although I'm sure it was an amicable Bronco, you suck. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll step down. But it was just hilarious. I'm trying to imagine what that conversation was in the office of do you quit or do we just make you quit or are you just flat out fired? How does this work? But
yeah, and I don't know if you noticed or picked up on it, but a lot of people are getting some mileage out of the fact that so we beat UVA in football and Bronco Mendenhall resigns. And then just a few calendar days later, we beat Maryland in basketball. And Mark Turgeon got fired after the game before their next game. So a lot of people are making some jokes that whoever, I think we're actually playing Maryland in the Pinstripe Bowl up in Yankee Stadium. And so Mike Loxley, head coach of the Terrapins, he better watch out because right now – Virginia Tech athletics is kind of the Grim Reaper. You lose to the Hokies, you might lose your job. So.
I like it. I mean, that's a good mantle to hold. It almost feels like was it Kingslayer? Was that the Game of Thrones reference there?
I think so. I'm not a Game of Thrones guy, admittedly. That's one of those. Right. I get dragged a little bit for that sometimes, but
I will not drag you. Don't worry. Yeah. I was dragged into it. I finally bought in. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, but it ended terribly. I'll be honest.
Maybe one day.
One day. So for the second one, I know we spoke about Sonny on, I think the last time you were on, got pretty in-depth with that one. This is not actually directly related to that, but this is actually comedic movies, and this is ones that are not necessarily new. Most of them are, I would say, at least 10 years old. So our prime years when we were probably just drinking Mountain Dew, eating popcorn, and watching these in one of our parents' basements. So I've got Strange Wilderness, Old School, and Wild Card, Stealing Harvard. Because I found myself out of nowhere quoting Tom Green's character in the kitchen earlier today, and I was like, I mean, I don't know what the question's going to be in Keep Trade Cut, but I have to bring in Stealing Harvard. So that was the reason for asking this.
Oh, man. I'm definitely going to keep Strange Wilderness. Love that movie. Got a ton of mileage out of it all the way through college. I think I maybe even watched it once. Like, it was one of those, I think, had a brief stint on Netflix, up for a temporary amount of time, and they took it down. I'm going to probably surprise you here, but I'm going to cut Old School, and I am going to trade Stealing Harvard. A lot of people probably, I would venture to say that some people that will listen to this episode have actually never even heard of that movie, because I don't think that was very mainstream at all. But we watched that movie an inordinate amount at your house in particular, and I just remember, it's one of those, if you didn't see it when we watched it, and watched it for the first time now, it's probably not funny at all. But because we have that nostalgia wrapped up in it from watching it when we were 15, 16, 17, just like Tom Green heating up a brick of cheese in the house that he's breaking up to and like shoveling it in his mouth. I mean, and like his landscape escape company. Oh man, I gotta go. I can watch that movie now.
I'm just thinking of all the quotes. When I was in the kitchen earlier, I just started just thinking through quotes and just started audibly laughing by myself in the kitchen. I was like, this has to be mentioned.
I'm so happy that you pulled that one out of left field, because that was I had completely forgotten about that movie.
And I don't know what streaming platform that would be on, but that feels like that would be one that would be like free on YouTube, because someone put it up there and they're like, this won't be taken down because no one ever knows what this movie is, and no one's going to request it to be taken down. So I can guarantee we'll find that somewhere.
Yeah.
So the final one, and this one is a bit of a wink and a nod, so we can just get into the Dynasty talk here. So this one is the stinky theme. And we've got the newborn dirty diapers, which, hidden secret, it's bizarre how they don't smell until it gets to formula. I don't understand it. It's very confusing to me, but I'll keep that one in there. Millie's poop. And Marley sneaking past you in one of the redraft leagues to be first in that division.
Oh man, yeah. I'm upset about that. I'm gonna cut that one, because she texted me after she beat me. I think that was last week, and then I lost again. To be honest with you, I've only been passively paying attention in that league. I mean, I'm definitely still setting my lineup and everything, but it's just maybe like the fourth or fifth one that I'm in. So it's like one of the later scores that I checked. Yeah. So I think at one point I was just running hot with Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp, and I know DeAndre Swift has been hurt, and he's one of my running backs. And then Joe Burrow, now he's got the pinky issue going on. He kind of had a couple lackluster games. So I think at one point I was maybe 7-2 or 7-3. I think I've lost 4 or 5 in a row. I might not even make the playoffs anymore. So we're going to cut that. I'm going to trade I'm going to trade Millie's poops. Millie's poops actually reek. I mean, like she's got some stinkers, and I'm going to keep Emma's. But it's funny, you mentioned how you don't remember Finn's poop stinking. They told us on our discharge paper from the hospital to let our pediatrician know if it's kind of strange to read on paper, but it says if the poops have a foul smelling odor, to let your pediatrician know. I was like, well, it's poop.
It sounds like, do you think I'm stupid?
Yeah, but Emma's poop actually does stink.
Is it really?
But like
Okay.
we've seen on, like you've obviously said, and we've heard from other people, and we've read online, like, I remember Megan reading something somewhere where it said like that a lot of times breastfeeding babies, their poop has like a sweet odor, and I'm like, there's nothing sweet about this. Like this girl could rip it. So, and don't get me wrong, they're not always all that bad, but it's just funny. It stood out to me that you said that, because we actually had to bring it up at our 2-week checkup on Monday. We were like, do we actually need to be concerned? Because her poops do smell. But
fair enough. Well, yeah, it was, that was the interesting one when it was, when we had Finn, this was 2 houses ago. And I remember when it was like changing his diaper, they gave us like, I think it was probably like a laminated card of basically like what the different like colors and consistencies of like poop was and what each one meant or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they said something about like the smelling, but when they like verbally said it, like one of the nurses had explained it, and in my head I'm just like, I mean, it's poop. Like I got it. Don't worry about it. And I got home and they started to not smell, and I'm like, I don't really know what's happening right now. I was like, this is pre-COVID. So when you don't smell something that should stink, the first thought was not you were sick. The first thought was just what is happening right now. So, but then, once I was looking it up and I was like, once he eventually switched over to formula, I mean, it was like, there's an immediate change in like the smell and everything, which was atrocious. It was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just glad that we got past those, what do they call it? Meconium poops. The like initial, like really tarry ones they have when they're like newborns. Cause those were a bear to clean up. The ones since we've been home haven't been too bad. We had our first borderline blowout last night that Dad was dealing with at 12:30 a.m. Up the back of the diaper. I picked her up in her swaddle. I was like, why is this swaddle wet? Like blasted through the onesie. Just so.
Yeah, just a small Call of Duty bomb just going off in there. That's all it is.
Sign of probably more to come.
Oh, no question. So, in terms of Dynasty, I know that I think you're in multiple leagues, but I know that you're, of course, the commissioner of the League of Extraordinary Degenerates, and, of course, the commissioner of a couple of other standard leagues that we're in together. But how is I think you're at 14 wins as of right now, because we have the win-loss for the matchup, and then the win-loss for top half or bottom half of points. And I know you got the double win this week, and I think you're literally one win behind the fourth, which is Harris, I want to say.
Yeah.
So that would be like getting you into the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm as you can tell, my screen probably just got like the reflection just got whiter on my face. I pulled up this spreadsheet here. It's heating up. I got a little bit excited. I mean, I knew basically going into this week that in my mind, I was just like, you know what, I need to go 6-0 the next few weeks. Sorry, let me make sure one of these turns off my Wi-Fi signal, so I want to make sure I'm not. I don't just like drop us in the middle of
this one.
Yeah. So, mission accomplished for the first week, 2-0 against Fabs. He actually had a pretty good week despite his lackluster season thus far. So this week actually in particular is really interesting because now I play Wolfgang, Kamara's a bitch. So if one of us is able to go 2-0 there, that's going to be pretty significant.
Who are you playing in week 15?
You.
The rivalry continues, buddy.
Yeah, and no disrespect to the current state of New Brunswick Never Nudes, but if I don't go 2-0 in week 15, then I don't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway. So
when I saw Minshew and Wilson going off on my team, which is just scoring double digits really, and I saw like all the scoring for that, and I'm like, am I going to beat Harris? This is absurd.
Yeah,
which again was the second win of the entire year, but I know he had an uncharacteristically bad week.
Yeah, so Jake and I were actually texting about this because a lot of times I will text him about just like interesting things I see when I'm doing the standings updates every Tuesday morning, and we have been kind of monitoring Harris's, for lack of a better term, free fall, because he at one point had edged into first, and I'm clicking back through the versions of the spreadsheet because there's like a history or whatever that you can look through, and I'm trying to find. There was one point where he had edged in front of Jacob, and I think since then he has won like. Yeah, so here it is, November 9th. So we're about a calendar month away from him being in first at 14-4. So that means since then he has gone 1-11. Is that right? How many losses does he have now?
Oh man,
he's 15-11. He was 14-4. So yeah, he's gone 1-7 in the last 4 weeks. So that is quite the fall there.
It's a tumble.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but in the first interview I did with you, I said my hot take was that Harris was not going to make the playoffs after he made that trade. And he probably still will, just because now I said that, so I jinxed myself. But no, I got a little excited looking at the standings, not even really just for myself and only being one spot back, but really from sneaky jellyfish all the way up to Kamara's a bitch. Anybody can fall or rise into the playoff situation. So it's just going to be interesting to see, especially like me. I only have 5 wins, like straight up 5 wins. I'm 5-8, but I've been in the top. Which is bizarre. Yeah, I've been in the top scoring, which has kept me afloat because I've had a lot of 1-1 weeks, which is why you see me, right at 500. But that's going to hurt me big time in a tiebreak situation, because the first tiebreak is most wins. So be interesting to see how it plays out. Gotcha. So really, that's what I'm saying. I'm just keeping my head down. Gotta go 2-0 this week. Gotta go 2-0 week 15. So
I was gonna say, I know. I mean, like going into the season again. I know back when it was in the same draft, right? It was Kyler and Lamar, right?
No. I actually grabbed Lamar in round 17 or 18 of the inaugural draft. I just took a flyer on him because, it was Joe Flacco was the starting quarterback in Baltimore, and I think the Ravens used, if I recall, I'm pretty sure they used a late first round pick on Lamar, like pick number 28 or something. And I just kind of figured maybe they're going to turn him into some, they're going to use him in packages, or maybe they're going to turn him into some player that they just get the ball into his hands, and he's almost like just an offensive Swiss Army knife. And I mean, I obviously just completely lucked into the situation, where just a year later, basically Flacco's gone and it's Lamar's team, and it's been that way. So then the next year was when I went Kyler Murray, Josh Jacobs.
That's right. Okay.
In the first round. So.
Yeah. I mean, and I know it was tough so Kyler's been out. I feel like it was an ankle injury, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
It seems so bizarre that I guess it's kind of how they covered it, of saying like, oh, he might be going. No, he's not. I guess if they would have just said, no, he's going to be out for this number of weeks, and not every week make it sound like he might, it's Colt McCoy. He might, it's Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see him come back, because he did well.
Yeah, that's been tough to like you said, it's just the way it's been covered, because it seems like so often now that they've changed the IR rules to where, you can go on short-term IR for 3 weeks, that we almost assume naturally that if they don't go on IR, that they'll either be back 1 week or the next. And they were truly just treating him on a week-to-week basis, which in hindsight seems like total wishful thinking, because, I mean, there was 3 weeks and then I think a bye in there too. So he's really been out a full month. But I remember I was watching Red Zone, doing just stuff around the house periodically, baby stuff. And I was like, this is like what you owed me, Kyler Murray. Like, you don't want to be that guy that's like tweeting at players or whatever, but it was just like, they don't owe us anything. But I felt very, what's the word I'm looking for? Just validated, that he came back and had four all-purpose touchdowns. And I was a little nervous about him on the road in Chicago. I mean, he's a warm weather guy. He's from Texas. He played in, played a little bit for A&M and then Oklahoma. Like, he hasn't spent, and then he plays in sunny Arizona most of the year. So I was like, Soldier Field in early December, that's where a lot of, quarterbacks go to die, to put up a nice 12-point performance or something like that. But he killed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I will say 2 things. Well, it might be 3 things. One, that trade to get Eckler, I liked it when you first did it, but wow, what an unbelievable trade. He just continues he gets touchdowns any single way he possibly can. I have him in a redraft league. It is hilarious how just consistently productive he is. Because it's not even just like by the end of, I think by the season, it's not like an Amari Cooper or some of those guys where it's like by the end of the year they're top 10, but it's going to be like peaks and valleys. Eckler, I feel like every single week it's at least 1 touchdown, if not maybe 2. He's getting his catches, he's getting his rushing attempts, and also you have the best waiver pickup in Elijah Mitchell, which I know he had a couple of injured weeks, but I mean, he might just flat out be the guy in San Fran even next year. So, I mean, that's incredible to have that, especially on the heels of with Edmonds going down for you. I feel like that filled in pretty nicely.
Yeah, lucked out big time, holding on to the number one waiver claim with Elijah Mitchell. And then, I remember when I traded, I think it was Brooks for Austin Eckler. It was less about me loving Eckler and more about me hating Josh Jacobs. Like, I had Josh Jacobs for 2 years. I saw what he was. At the time, we had Gruden, and for whatever reason, John Gruden wasn't at all interested, and it doesn't seem like it's changed under this new, at least interim regime. They have just zero interest in passing him the ball. And our league's a little different. We kind of subsidize the PPR format with 0.25 points per carry. So every 4 carries, you're still getting that point. So some of that gets balanced out, but he was a workhorse running back on a bad offense. And I was tired of it. I was like, let me just try to get this guy where I can get some value for him. And the Eckler trade, I got fortunate that he's been what he's been. And I did ID him a little bit just because Justin Herbert had such a great rookie year. I was like, hey, if I can get a piece of that, then sign me up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of helped. Some of that running back success has kind of helped offset, Calvin Ridley being out with the mental health, break all year. He's my best receiver. Yeah. And Chris Godwin finally popped this week, but he's been kind of stale for me as well. I missed a couple weeks from Amari Cooper on the COVID list since he's not vaccinated. He had to do the full.
Oh, that's right.
So been piecing it together. Also been fortunate that Dalvin Cook's been a little hampered because I'm a Alexander Madison owner. So cashed in on that this week as well.
Oh, yeah. And certainly I think I've attempted it before. If you get sick of Bateman, just let me know. I'll welcome him in. I actually probably won't welcome him in and immediately ship him out like I do most people. I might actually keep him for a while. I'll be honest with you.
We'll see.
But
throw enough at me, something might stick.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So do you have if you're kind of looking at your dynasty, I guess at least specifically talking about this league or any other ones that you're in, is there anything that you're kind of taking from this season thus far? I know it's not over. I know we're not even quite to the playoffs, and then that's a whole other thing. But is there anything that you feel like you've taken from this dynasty season to this point that is something that you've maybe learned beyond any other previous year, whether it be about a player, about like a strategy you've used, anything like that?
I actually touched on it a little bit in that last answer, but I think actually I've discovered, at least as it pertains to our league, that because in a lot of other like redraft leagues and stuff, I almost never want any part of running backs who don't catch passes. Like, I will not draft Nick Chubb. I will not draft Josh Jacobs. I will not draft. I'm trying to think of like another one off the top of my head. I'm kind of struggling. Jordan Howard or somebody like that. Like, I don't draft guys who I don't feel like aren't going to catch balls. But as I've seen, I think really Elijah Mitchell has shown me this season is if you can get a running back in our league and a good offense who gets the volume, they're definitely still worthwhile. But then something I've learned, I think, as it pertains to my roster, I've started to get a little nervous about the fact that I don't have a first round pick again this year.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, who'd have thought that might actually come to roost one day. So, because I think with Calvin Ridley being out and then some of my other wide receivers sort of being meh, I've kind of thought like I need to figure out a way to get back into the first round. So, I've been having some discussions with a couple people, maybe trying to find Aaron Rodgers a new home, maybe, or.
There you go. Okay.
I did try to get into the first round using him last year and to no avail. Hindsight being what it is, it seems like maybe it worked out because I was aggressively trying to trade for Trey Lance and not really sure what's going on there. We'll see how that one pans out. But at least for right now, I'm glad that I still have Aaron Rodgers because he's on kind of like a vendetta tour right now.
Yeah, I'm honestly. I know he's not going to get the MVP because I don't think the league's going to allow that to happen.
Not after the whole Vax thing.
Yeah, I feel like he at least they're fine. I'm sure if he is in like top 3 or top 5 or whatever, but they're never going to let him have it again. I kind of think he deserves it, if I'm being honest. Because certainly if it's like if he was able to still play through and it was like, oh well, you didn't technically lie to us. You just had the team lie, and then we just didn't ask any further questions, and now you're playing through a broken toe or something like that. But I don't know. If he would not have missed, he only missed 1 game, right? I think it was or maybe 2.
I think he only did he miss any?
I thought it was only 1. I know he missed 1 because Love started, and
that's right.
Was fairly
that was the COVID thing. That wasn't even his toe.
Yeah, that was just COVID.
Yeah.
So I think it was maybe just the 1 game he missed because of that. But obviously he would have played if they allowed him to. But and I don't know that game, if he would have played that, would have made a huge difference. But I mean, statistically, it's going to be a bummer that he doesn't win MVP again. But I kind of feel like he could get an unofficial MVP just in terms of how well he's performed. And I don't know.
It's hard to argue against it because I mean none of the other typical suspects like Pat Mahomes or. I mean, Dak's had a pretty solid year, but certainly not MVP worthy. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that he could. I think he gets very, I wouldn't say disrespected, but somewhat overlooked because it's sort of like I liken it a little bit to Tom Brady in New England. Like outside of the year that they had, like Randy Moss and like prime Gronk and everything, like. He never had like consistent weapons. It was like, yeah, sure, he made Julian Edelman into like a star player and all this stuff. But Aaron Rodgers has like Devontae Adams, and now he has a good run game and everything with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. But like, insert scrub pass catcher here, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equinemius St. Brown, like Jake Kumerow. Some random rotation of old tight ends like Jimmy Graham and I mean Robert Tonyan can flash every now and then, but it's just that dude just gets it done no matter who's out there. I just think about like what if he had Matt Stafford's wide receiver core or something like that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
So cast my vote for him, but not that matters.
We have our own separate system, so I mean, we could just send him in the mail some kind of trophy. It could be like a bowling trophy we find for free is fine. Yeah. We'll just let him know he got some sort of award, even though it's not from the NFL.
Yeah.
But
he'll appreciate that.
Oh, no question. So this is kind of a minor roaster toast, and I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are on this one. I guess it was 2 episodes ago now, was the bigger piece when it was talking to Jake when it was the Zach Wilson Tua trade, and I think there was one immediately after that I talked to him about. But this one was the only somewhat big one since then for me. And it was I traded away a late 2022 first, which was Jake's, for Terrace Marshall, and I got my 2023 second back, which I guess it's somewhat insurance of saying if this whole thing that I'm trying to do with the 3 firsts I currently have and the injured people I've basically amassed, which is about a quarter of my roster at this point, if they don't heal up, if I miss on draft picks, which I joked on the previous episode, that my quarterbacks are pretty terrible in terms of my thought on who's good when I, in the startup, picked Josh Rosen, and in a year or 2 after that, I drafted Dwayne Haskins. So I don't have a great eye for that talent. So hopefully I just stumble ass back. Yeah, so I'm just going to get somebody athletic and just hope they don't get injured, I guess, because I apparently can't trust someone that plays in a good system in college with a good arm because it doesn't matter. They're going to suck if I pick them. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that one. And I mean, if you want to talk about the Zach Wilson 201 as well, entirely up to you. But
so it was you gave up late first round. You get Terrace Marshall and a 2023 second. So in essence, like you said, if this rebuild hasn't come to fruition by then you're really only trading back maybe a couple spots.
Presumably, yeah.
Because is that pick that you traded to Jake the one that you own, or is that someone else's?
That's Jake's.
Do you remember?
So,
okay.
So the thought is like, all right, well, presumably if he's making the playoffs, it's basically secured to be the last one of the last 4 picks, and then if I end up sucking, obviously, then it would guarantee to be the 2.01.
No, I'm going to toast you there just because I mean I like Terrace Marshall a lot. I've been I haven't necessarily you probably know a little bit more being a Panthers fan about what's been truly going on with him that's kept him off the field. I think maybe he's had a couple minor injuries and everything. And then, sometimes just rookie wide receivers don't get the looks, but I mean, I think long-term, he's a good prospect. Like if somebody can, whether it's this current team or someone can find a spot for him, as a big slot receiver. I mean, he was killer at LSU. And I know some of that, you never know how, like we talked about with quarterbacks, you never know how that's going to translate to the league, but I like Terrace Marshall a lot. And I low-key think that's a good player to grab. And then, you're potentially only sliding back a couple picks. So toast it.
I'm always ready to get roasted. I assume a roast is going to happen, and then if a toast happens, it's even sweeter.
Admittedly, I probably shouldn't even say this, but it took me
Go on.
It took me way too long to figure out exactly, and I hope that I now have it figured out, what the essence of roast me or toast me was. Because at the beginning, I thought roast obviously being, grill you or whatever, and then toast being like a slightly milder version of getting roasted. But then I think I've come to figure out that toast is like
that's even
cheers. Better. we're toasting. That's a good thing. So I'm just going to air out my own dirty laundry there. Like, I think I might've been doing dishes one night and I was thinking about roast me or toast me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been totally thinking about that the wrong way. So roast me for not understanding that segment for the first 2 months of your podcast.
I like to see if I'm better because I'm now trying to think through a couple of the ones I've mentioned where if it's now framed as, do you want to shit on me or do you want to shit on me? Like if that's what I was saying, this is a terrible idea, but what do you think about it?
Yeah.
I like that way better.
Yeah, basically. That's what I thought it was at the beginning. So,
well, I appreciate that because you're now telling me that, and I believe you were the one that told me about the Tobias Funke, how he could be perceived, and watching back that Arrested Development, and something to do with that of if you see him through a different lens, how does that show seem different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they originally wrote that character as an albino black man. So if you watch that show and imagine Tobias Funke being an albino black man, it just it changes everything.
Because I can even just think back to a couple of scenes, and that's funny, let alone I'm trying to think of obviously each scene, how the whole story connects and everything it gets into, how much funnier that makes it, and how bizarre it is, honestly, in terms of if you think about it through that, it's that's very feasible with all the stuff that he does and says. It's just still hilarious, though. Yeah. Well, I want to end on a appreciation note for you being the fearless commissioner for a number of years. And again, you've never charged me for a single trade that you've had to process in Dynasty. I'm beginning to feel bad about it, if I'm being completely honest. And a huge congrats to you becoming a new father and everything that entails. And I know every day is different with a kid, but you learn something new every day. And even on the tough days, I feel like every day is still better. Right when you go to sleep, thinking about the good things that happen. So appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Emma appreciates it. Megan appreciates it. And I wanted to ask you, I think you might have done a trade when we were either in labor or post labor, and I didn't get to it in the 48 hours. So do they go through automatically if I don't approve them in 48 hours, or did I get to it at the 11th hour?
No, you got to it.
Okay.
Because that was the case that had happened. And I didn't know what would happen in terms of if it was after a certain number of hours.
I didn't know if it would get bounced or something like that. So I wanted to make sure it went through.
I remember looking at it because I kept looking just to see, and it didn't go through. I was it wasn't one where I was I'm wildly concerned. I assumed the other person agreed to it. It wasn't a struggle or anything. So I was if we need to redo it later, I don't care. And I clicked on it at one point, and it said something if not approved, in X number of hours, it'll be processed or something. Yeah. So I think after a certain amount of time, it just approves it anyway or something. So
yeah.
So basically, what I'm saying is, you don't even need to approve these. You can make me wait 4 days, and I think it'll just work.
Well, at least you didn't need that player that weekend or something like that. Then I'm sure I I probably would have gotten a text from one of the parties. But
Hey, then I would have 3 wins probably.
yeah, I'm holding you back.
Oh, yeah. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to catching up soon. And, of course, I'm very excited for the chance when I do get to meet your beautiful baby girl.
Looking forward to it as well. But Finn meet his imprint. So
No question. That's happening.
It is
I explained it to
happening.
Marley. She's very excited about it.
Yeah.
It is happening.
We're on board. All systems go. Thanks, man.
No question. All right, brother. See you.